Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, saying, am I the arsehole for not wanting to be the maid of honor at my best friend's wedding because she's pregnant and marrying my ex? Of course, the story is a lot more complicated than the title. So, two major parts of my life converged recently, and I'm just devastated and question pretty much all my actions. Hence why I'm posting here, because I may be acting awful to two people I love dearly. So part one is Tammy, my best friend since elementary school. She is literally my sister. We've done pretty much everything together. Same college, same dorm, roommates, confidants, sloppy drunk mates, you name it. I love her so much. Part two is Gregory, my college boyfriend. I love him as well, but we could just never make things work. Had one of those hot mess relationships which are a combination of torture and bliss. We've dated on and off since freshman orientation. All of us are 27 now, but usually end up in flames. I always loved him so much that I hoped we'd mature and be able to make things work. He moved to a different city after college, but we stayed in touch, sent flirty texts and even went on vacation twice. We got along great, as long as we both had our own places to retreat to, if that makes sense. All along we both had dating lives, and to be fair, I never told him about my long-term idea that we'd be together. A year ago, Tammy moved to a city about 30 minutes away from Gregory. She was having a really hard time meeting people, so I told her, since she knew Gregory so well, she should call him to see if he can introduce her to his group of friends. She did, and I knew she was much happier. About 3 months after that, the flirty text from Gregory just stopped out of the blue, which isn't that big of a deal because it's happened before, but looking back, I should have known what was coming. Tammy just came home for the weekend and said she was making a special trip just to see me. Of course, I was super excited to see her. She came over and she just seemed a little off. First, she told me she was pregnant. After we got past the shock and established she was happy in keeping the baby, I was elated to be an aunt. Then she said there's more, and this is really hard. I about died when she said the baby is Gregory's. She apologized and said she was so sorry. They had just hit it off and they didn't mean to do anything to hurt me. And they even tried breaking up for my sake, but they just realized there was too much of an attraction and they started dating. She hadn't planned on getting pregnant, but now that she is, they're getting married. She said she hoped this didn't hurt me, and she always dreamed about me being a maid of honor, and there's no one else she'd ever ask. I tried to keep my cool, but I just lost it. I wasn't mad at her, just really sad. I told her that I loved her, but I just couldn't be around her right now. And no way I could even go to their wedding, let alone be in the wedding party. She said she was sorry about a million times as she was leaving, and she texted me quite a bit wanting to see me before she left town on Sunday. I just couldn't do it. I literally cried all weekend. Here's the thing, if I were never in the picture, they'd make a perfect couple. Perfect. Tammy's brand of fiery is a much better match to Gregory's calm nature than mine. They are both gorgeous and smart and great with kids. If two people should be hooking up to be great partners and parents, it's those two. I just can't help being hurt. Am I the arsehole for not wanting to be a maid of honor? Edit, this blew up like crazy. I had no idea. Thank you, I think pretty much everyone so far thinks at least my initial reaction is okay. The thing that people seem most confused by is the timeline, and honestly, I was wrong in my original post. Tam and I only talked for maybe 10 minutes on Friday evening, so there is a lot I don't know, but I went through my texts and such, and this is the best I can put together. June, Gregory took me to Hawaii. That is the last time I saw him. We text maybe 2-3 times a week. May the following year, Tammy gets her job and moves to a new city. We text or call easily a combined 100 times a day or more. Late July that same year, Tammy confesses that she's really lonely. All her co-workers are older and she's seriously thinking about quitting and moving back. I tell her she should call Greg. She doesn't have his number, so I give it to her. I still keep getting flirty, but nothing overt from Gregory in this time period. August, same year, I start a project at my job. promotions company, setting up for a December event for an A or B list celebrity. It's literally make or break for my company and my career. I work 16-hour day minimums and basically go off the grid. Greg still texts occasionally and I keep missing Tammy's calls. September, same year, last text from Greg. Like I said, no big deal. I didn't even see this until today, but Tammy texts me, please call me ASAP. We really need to talk about something. This adds a whole new element to this story, but I can't believe I forgot or missed the text. I respond to another text of hers later in the day, kind of bitchy. Hey, you know I'm busy, give me some time to breathe. Another piece I forgot until I dug in my text. She may have taken this as a message I wasn't ready. I assume this is when they first hooked up. September to December, we still miss each other and honestly don't think I talked to her, and looking back she texted about 5 times to every one of my responses, and if I read it right, she initiated all conversations. I wasn't a very good friend. My event goes off pretty well and then I immediately leave for an overseas vacation with my family. January the next year, we didn't talk at all, but I didn't think much of it. Friday the 1st, she drops the news in person she's been pregnant for about 2 weeks and getting married in April. So that's the timeline. Not sure if it clears anything, but it looks like Tam may have reached out to me at least once. I was going to cover some of the comments on this one, but I'm not sure if they came before the edit, because it seemed like there was a lot of Tammy trying to get in contact with the OP, and a lot of the comments were saying, they don't understand why. Many people were saying no one's an arsehole here. That why didn't Tammy get in touch with OP to tell her about what was going on before, rather than sneaking around behind her back? But it sounded like in the timeline that OP gave us in September, Tammy was texting with, please call me ASAP, we need to talk about something. It sounded like that could have been the conversation. Maybe not. Obviously, I don't know. And it's a difficult one, isn't it? I was kind of like on the no one's an arsehole here. I don't think I've ever seen a good situation where one of the friends dates the opposite friend's ex. And in some ways, I think OP is being pretty mature about it. OP's feelings are OP's feelings. They're going to feel how they want, and it might just take some time to work through them, Especially when she was bombarded with it all at once. Hi friend, guess what? I'm pregnant, I'm getting married, and guess to who? Your ex. Who OP thought that, in the future they might get together once they mature. That's a lot to take in all at once. So, I get where OP's coming from. OP also explained that she thinks that they'd make a great couple, better than what OP and Greg would have been, potentially. So I think time to process could be what's needed here, but OP comes in with her first update and said, I got so many nice comments on my original and my first ever gold. I figured I owed everyone an update, and sort of what I'm thinking now after getting a chance to talk it out with Tammy and see Gregory for the first time in almost 2 years. If the original is needed, it's here, and then shares the link. I posted the original on Tuesday morning. I pretty much couldn't focus on anything else, so I took the rest of the week off to have a self-pity party. That wasn't working, so I decided, screw it. I'm going to drive 7 hours to see Tammy, just to tell her how I was feeling. I texted her on the way and she said she was happy I was coming. I really wanted to address all the very good questions you good people had brought up in my post from Tuesday. So I got there and we basically hugged hello. I have to admit I was very happy to see her. What was so fucking weird is it was obvious Gregory was living in her place now. I don't even know why I hadn't even thought about this, but he's a pretty messy dude, so when I saw cereal bowls on the coffee table and socks on the floor, shit that used to drive me up the wall, I was like, wow, this is real. Thank God Greg wasn't there, and Tammy apologized that she just didn't feel good enough to clean up before she heard I was coming. So our conversation basically centered around what happened and why she never told me. At first, she was kind of talking around it to spare my feelings, and I got sort of frustrated with her and told her to please just tell me what happened. So it turns out that they went out as a group right after I gave her Greg's number, and they just had an immediate attraction. They said that for the first few times they hung out, it was all just reminiscing about our college days and never mentioned the attraction. I guess about 2 weeks of hanging out, they kissed for the first time, and she was so pissed at herself that she blocked his number and didn't see him for almost a month. I guess she got lonely again. They ran into each other and admitted they had real feelings. She said she texted me and told me she wanted to talk about it right after they agreed to start dating. I found this out on my own on Tuesday after going through my text, but since I was so busy, I wasn't very nice to her. but she knew I was busy and really wavered on interrupting the most important time in my professional career versus telling me some very hard to swallow news. She said rightly or wrongly she decided to tell me in person when she saw me again. Fast forward a little bit, I guess they were so serious they talked about eloping after 2 months and were pretty much living together. She said they had a drunken New Year's Eve party and just weren't careful, and that's when she assumed she got pregnant. She said she knew then that it was an in-person conversation she had to have with me. Her first free weekend was last weekend. So I basically responded to all of this by saying I just didn't know how to feel. And in my brain I knew Gregory and I were not compatible, but my heart always hoped we'd grow up and be able to make it work. And she was my best friend and I basically hooked them up. I just don't know how to deal with all this. I know it's over, but even seeing his shit on her floor was sort of painful. Honestly, that would have been a massive fight between Greg and I. Like I said, Tammy is much more chill. I told her that I would always love her and always be her friend, but an April wedding is probably just too soon to be involved in a wedding party. She said she totally understood. We talked about the elephant in the room for maybe 20 more minutes, but honestly, we were just talking in circles, saying the same thing over and over again. So we just sort of moved on to how she was feeling, how work was going, me apparently wearing some sort of man repellent because I can't even hook up on Tinder, and all the other things friends usually talk about. Tammy is in full-blown morning sickness, so she must have bathed 15 times in the first 2 hours of me being there. At first, I just let her do her thing, but then I felt really bad because we've been friends for over 20 years, and I'm not even helping her. So I went in and helped her put her hair in a ponytail and rubbed her back. And that's when it hit me that I would absolutely regret it and never be able to forgive myself if I weren't there for her wedding, pregnancy, and having a baby, no matter who she was marrying. We went to lunch, and at that point I told her I was sorry. I was being selfish and I would be her maid of honor. She said no way I was being selfish, but would never have another maid of honor besides me. It's not going to be the easiest thing in my life, but I can't not do it. So we went back to her apartment and Gregory was home. Suddenly I felt like such an idiot because I couldn't possibly be in their wedding, let alone ever be around the two of them together. That was the most awkward hello I've ever had in my life. And thank God he cleaned up because I was just amped up with nerves to scream at him like I would have in the past. We sort of awkwardly sat on their couch, not saying much, but after a few minutes, I just started telling myself again to grow up. Don't let my own feelings get in the way of two people who may really belong together. Seeing them in person together is even more saccharine sweet than I thought possible. They are perfect for each other. Gregory is supportive. I don't know how many times I had to claim best friend privilege when she got sick over loving fiancé privilege. And sweet, and she's far more tolerant of him than I could ever possibly be. It was still hard for the rest of the evening, but I think it will get better with time. I decided again I would be in their wedding. We had dinner and I got a hotel because even though I'm trying, I'm not ready to sleep in the same house as them. Tammy has to work today, so I'm just hanging out before I see her for lunch, and I'm going to drive back home. We have a long way to go, but I'm so glad I came to see her because at the very least we saw each other and talked it out, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be involved in these major life events with her. Thank you so much for all the input the other day, and thank you for reading all this. Edit. Guys, holy shit, this is blown up again. I literally just got home and have over 200 inbox notifications. Thank you so much for the gold and silver, and I can't wait to read all this. Thank you so much. Edit 2, I totally passed out last night, so I didn't get to participate like I would have. I have to jump in and defend Tammy. Maybe no one will see this because it's probably time this fades. Maybe no one will believe me, but for all the criticisms of her, there's a good explanation that can most likely be explained away by me being a bad writer or not wanting to be a narcissistic novel. For example, I saw someone saying, Tammy should have called after the first kiss. I've known her for so long to know that she knows I can be very irrational and angry. I alluded to it in the other post, but I had to do a year of anger management therapy because I can be like dynamite when I get pissed. I'm way better now, but she probably has legit PTSD from some of my freakouts, and she figured it was a one-time thing, so why poke the bear if that makes sense? Secondly, I can't stress enough how busy I was last fall. Not an exaggeration to say I was working 16 plus hours a day with maybe a day off every 20 to 30 days. I was planning a huge event that centered around a true narcissist, and he would have me on my phone texting questions and answering all day long. The last thing I wanted to do in my time off was get on my phone. I can count from that period, and I'd say it averages from 10 to 1 of Tammy texting me. I assume calls were worse, but one stretch I think I counted, she texted me 40 times before I text her back. It's bad timing more than anything, because any one of those may have been when she wanted to tell me. And I definitely appreciate her thoughtfulness of not wanting to spring it on me while I was losing my mind from lack of sleep at work. I agree with her that this was an in-person conversation anyways. I know Tammy is just an internet sprite to all but one of you, and that is so fucking two Redditors one cup thing. I wish I had the energy to do another post, but she is a real person who has been my ride or die since we were 10 and 11. We fought, screwed each other over so many times, and we've always forgiven each other because having her in my life is way more important than pining over a guy I spent most of my time frustrated with anyways. Don't get me wrong, I'm still pining and I cried last night over this, but like so many people said, maybe Tam Tam's best gift to me as a friend was forcing me to get on with shit. Maybe 10 years and 40 plus breakups, and just as many broken dishes and slammed doors. She was the sign the universe sent to make me move on from a guy who wasn't right for me. Update 2. So I log into this account from time to time, and still a handful of people wanting to know how things were going. I decided to wait a bit until the actual wedding so I could do one final update. To recap, my best friend moved to a city where my ex lived last year. I encouraged her to get in touch with him. They started dating, she got pregnant, and they fast-tracked the wedding. She asked me to be a maid of honor. I asked this sub's opinion on whether or not I was being an asshole for refusing. It was pretty mixed responses, but very intense on both sides. After lots of soul searching, I decided I would do it. Wedding was yesterday, and it was actually a great time. It wasn't without hard feelings. I still very much had feelings for Greg, and those feelings came out in me getting very frustrated with him when he wouldn't return emails or phone calls about what he wanted to do. But Tammy was much more patient and kind with him, and it really enforced that feelings of he's not the guy for me. The ceremony yesterday was small and very beautiful, and they are so in love with each other, it's almost sickening. I cried my eyes out, both out of happiness for them, but also after close to 10 years off and on. Greg and I are officially over. It's never happening, and that's a good thing, but still worthy of tears. On a good note, massive sarcasm, my dry spell with men continues, and I didn't even get laid as the maid of honor at my best friend's wedding. Yay! All of Greg's friends were married or serious, and Tammy's brothers are off limits. The awesome guy who danced with me all night long was amazing in every way, but I guess my penis wasn't big enough for him to be attracted to me. The only single available guy was Greg's 65-year-old uncle, who gave me a ride on his Harley motorbike, but even that fell through, and I'm about to hit the Embassy Suites breakfast by myself. Anyways, as a final note, this community saved my mental health during a really rough patch, and so I appreciate the moderators and commenters for helping me to see things clearly enough to be an adult and be there for my best friend. As hard as it was, I'd be even sadder had I not been there yesterday. Thank you again. And below that last update, there was a little conversation string between OP and another account which appeared, and it talks about an incident which they're calling the scissor incident, and it sounds like, I haven't read it yet, but it sounds like there's some stabbing involved. I don't think it actually adds to the story in itself, so if you don't want to listen to it, please don't carry on any further. That's the end of the video for you. Thank you for being here, but we're going to get into it. So the person said, "Hey OP, I created a throwaway because I post on our hometown sub all the time. I'm freaking the fuck out because nothing like this has ever happened to me on Reddit. But does the name Zoe L mean anything to you? And is Greg still doing his dream job?" Then she mentioned the scissor incident, saying, "I did. I moved back last summer. I actually just saw your mum and she was supposed to tell you. I guess she didn't. I'm literally blown away. I'll DM you my number. I don't want anyone to find out about the scissor incident. I'm sure he's still mad." But then they start talking about the scissor incident, and it says, "Okay, I just got done talking to her for the first time in almost 4 years, and she said I could tell the condensed version. Our sophomore year in college, OP, Tammy, and myself and 2 other girls got invited to go camping at a lake over Memorial Day by a guy one of us had just met. We got to the lake, not only we were the only girls, the guy who invited us was not even there. It was so creepy. Sounds like some Crystal Lake shit going on here. But we got there late, and it was like a 2.5 hour drive, so we agreed we'd hunker down, stay there one night, and leave as early as we could in the morning. If I'm remembering right, there were 15 to 20 guys to the 5 of us, and they were insisting that we drink the mixed drinks they were making. 4 of us refused, 1 accepted. We were just sitting around their campfire, then, just like in a horror movie, the girl who accepted the drinks was gone. I mean, she was sitting there 1 second, and the next was just gone. All of a sudden, OP just like sprang into action. I swear to God, she was like a superhero. We just sat there stunned as she went running up the beach and just like full on body slammed herself into this guy who we didn't see, sort of half carrying our missing friend. She started screaming at him that if he took one more step she was going to kill him. He started doing the smarmy, "What are you going to do about it? And just chill out, baby. She said she wants to go with me." OP was literally right in his face telling her that if he didn't go back to the campfire, she was going to kill him. By that time, we caught up and our friend was literally sitting in the sand, drooling on herself. Obviously, the drink had been spiked with something. The guy shoved OP down, and when she got up, she had a pair of scissors in her hand, and I swear to God, stabbed him in the forehead. I was like, holy fucking shit, and where in the hell did you get the scissors? By this time, I think it was Tammy, who was well on the phone with 911, and half the guys were just throwing their shit into their cars and leaving. The other half were pleading with us that they didn't know who the roofie guy was. She didn't stab him hard enough to go into his brain or anything. Not by a long shot, but he was bleeding all over the place. He started screaming, "That bitch stabbed me, she fucking stabbed me." And again, like a little 5'3" blonde action star, she was right in his face telling him that if he didn't get the fuck out of there, she was going to stab him again. He sprinted off, and we never saw him again. If I remember right, 911 told us that the nearest park ranger or state police was over 30 minutes away, and that if we could leave and take our friend to the ER, which itself was almost an hour away, since she hadn't even been able to get in touch with paramedics. So our friend was out of it, clearly drugged, and the whole way we were like 4 adrenaline nightmares, and all I could scream at OP was like, "Please don't say anything to the police because you can get in trouble." And again, like the only cool one among us, she said one of the funniest things I've ever heard, considering the situation. Of course I'm telling them, I want to look for the fucking arsehole with a hole in his head. And we got to the ER and the state police were waiting for us, and she proudly told them everything she had done. Another part of that night I'll never forget is the huge state police officers just beaming with pride that this little tiny girl in pink sweats had prevented him from having to investigate a sexual assault and telling her not to worry no matter how he wrote it up. No one was going to fault her for stabbing the would-be assailant with scissors. So our friend was okay considering, and I think they let her go home the next day. The investigating officer told us the park ranger and state police had arrived to our campsite and no one was left, so unless someone sought medical attention for a head wound, there wasn't much they could do. Sorry, that wasn't the condensed version. It's still probably one of the most amazing things I've ever seen another human being do, and I get carried away when I tell the story. But it also shows what an amazing person OP is. Okay then. Holy shit. I'm not really sure what to say on the back of that one. Oh, really got out of hand right there. Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today. Get involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here today. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.